Welcome to Subramani. This is my second in this series of investment philosophy of mine as to how I invest. So one very important thing which everybody tells you is you should buy a low PE stock or a low price to book stock. But please understand that I have always wondered, how do I arrive at the PE, because I don't even know what goes into the numerator and what goes into the denominator. Okay, let me just tell you. Earnings means which earnings do I take? Do I take this year's earnings? Do I take last year's earnings? Do I take the future earnings? I don't know. Should I take last 10 years average earnings? Yes, it makes sense. But in India, is that detail available? No, I will have to sit and work or ring up some good friendly young investment analyst working in some good place to ask him for those details or her for those details. Incidentally, now I know a lot of young girls getting into investment analysis, which is very good and nice to talk about it around Women's Day. But I think more women need to be represented in fund management and in fund sales. Sorry, that was a digression. So largely saying, I love the buy low PE, but I don't really understand. I mean, the PE of Reliance has morphed from being a commodity company to being an IT company. So if the PE of a company changes from 8 to 45, how do you know that the change is permanent, or will the change be temporary? We really don't know. So to me, that buy low when the buy cheaper PE does not make sense, because I have not been able to understand sector PEs. I have not been able to understand MNC PEs. Why does Colgate India get a PE greater than Colgate USA? Now I could have analyzed, I could have spoken about this in 1980 or in 2022, but the most important thing is the high PE always sustained. So Pfizer with a poor quarterly result will see its PE drop from 78 to 77.2. That's about it. It is not going from 78 to 7.8, nor is the PE of Reliance going from 8 to 78, right? Both of these are not happening. So the question is, you have to accept the PE which the market is giving, and you hope that in the long run, very, very, very long run, things will change. So the PE to change is very difficult, and in the market like this today, when the market itself is high and you have a choice of buying a PE of 70 or buying a PE of 42, you really keep wondering whether a historical average of 20 PE or 18 PE or 15 PE, whether it makes any sense. So I keep struggling with PE, unable to decide whether it is good or bad to buy high PE or low PE, or should I buy a low PE like an Indian Oil at 79 rupees and hold on for life, knowing that there will be decent dividend yield, then or get out at 131 and say, wow, I've got a good ride, let me get out, because I know the share will go back to a lower price, and should I buy then? I've struggled with this. I've struggled with PSU PEs, I've struggled with private sector PEs, and I keep wondering, when something is available at a PE of 6, why am I not buying that? Why am I buying a PE of 40? But I find that the PE of 40 actually delivering, because even though the PE remains constant, the EPS is jumping enough to justify that 40. And here it is again at 6 PE it is justified, because the only thing you're getting here is dividend yield, and the earning is not happening so fast because it's ultimately a commodity. So I have struggled with that. I have not known how to handle PE, largely because I am not able to even say which PE should I use, which earnings should I use, how many years average, and if it's a commodity, does the word average even make any sense? So I've struggled with these questions of not even knowing how to calculate the PE, because I do not know which PE to use. Trailing, past, future, present, very difficult to say. So knowing that I'm not too great an analyst at predicting earning, nor knowing which earning to take, the only thing right for me in my PE ratio is the price at which it is quoting. I am not a big fan of the PE ratio. I would rather look at how much is the dividend that I'm likely to get. Will that mean that I lose out on growth shares? Answer is yes. So for that, I have to have a slightly different philosophy. So I do that. So when I find a share which is not paying any dividends, or which is growing its earnings very well but not paying dividend, well, to me the PE ratio does not make any sense. If I like a Zomato, for example, I can look at the valuation, but I just don't have any earnings. So what do I do with it? How do I use PE ratio? I don't know. I'm not recommending Zomato. I'm not recommending Paytm, Nykaa. I don't understand some of the business models, so I will not be interested in investing in them. I'll start investing in them after the fund managers start looking at them, and then I know I can pick up some analyst who will tell me why he is bought or why he is not bought. But I look at the price to book ratio, because price to book ratio is more likely to remain constant. But price to book ratio works well in case of companies which are asset intensive rather than in companies which are not asset intensive, right? So if I look at Alphabet, Google, any of them, they have no assets. I don't think Zomato is going to build too much of assets. So all these companies basically believe that they understand the consumer philosophy, etc., and therefore they have that advantage. So maybe they have that. And I also realize that my ability to forecast, I've spoken even in part 1 of my investment philosophy, that I'm not really very good at being able to forecast next 1 year, 2 years, 5 years for a company. So that is out. And can I be very simplistic and say, okay, this is the future cash flow? Answer is no. I really don't know how good is my analysis and how good is it. Even when I'm talking to some analyst, whether he's or she is good at doing that. So yes, so DCF to me does not make any sense. I don't even know how DCF works in the philosophically over 10-15 years. So that's difficult. So what are my advantages? I know I'm not a great analyst, I'm not a good analyst, but I know I have one huge advantage. I know whom to talk to. I know I can pick up the phone and pick up an analyst in almost very many companies. So that is a huge advantage. That I understand is my advantage. I don't have to worry too much about cash flows from investing. I am building wealth for myself. I'm not answerable. If somebody looks at my portfolio, I may not be able to justify the product size nor the size of how many I should be holding. Why am I holding 15,000 shares of this company and not 45,000 shares or 30,000 shares? I am unable to answer, and I am very happy that I am not answerable. I can move to from zero to full and full to zero positions. Like for example, I had Coal India. I sold Coal India at about 300 when I realized that the government is going to sell it through an ETF, and I thought that was the stupidest way to sell shares, but they did it, and they completely damaged the price from 300 to 120 and gave me a fantastic entry point at 119. So I bought that. With ITC, I got very lucky. I sold at a very good price. In retrospect, I had sold at 330, 350 kind of a price for my last 2,000-3,000 shares, because I decided I will not invest in a company which is spreading cancer. After that, the price came down again because of ETF sales. Larsen & Toubro did not get hit much by the ETF sale, and I'm quite surprised. I thought it will get hit more. But yes, when the government does something stupid, and the government is perfectly capable of doing something stupid, then you're worried. Like I've never been attracted by investing in National Stock Exchange. I just knew this company right from 1993-94, and I never liked the fact that it is held by the government, because government companies can get away with murder for pretty long periods of time. National Stock Exchange has an unconscionably high margin, and I'm worried that one day that margin will get hit when the government will say your charges are too high. Or if it's a really level playing field, another 10 more exchanges can surface. So there is no way how this company can survive if some real good groups get into the stock exchange business. Like Jignesh was not allowed to come in. These kind of advantages don't last forever, right? But MNC P is high. So it's very difficult to say what can work, what can't work, but I know how I've fortified myself. I have cash flows coming from other places, so I will never be a distressed seller. I'm building it for myself. I'm not answerable to anybody. I can build positions over a long period of time. I can cut down positions over a long period of time. I don't need to classify myself as a trader, momentum trader, value investor, deep value investor, growth value investor. I'm not constrained by any label. So these are my advantages, and I am not dependent on my portfolio for my day-to-day living. My dividends may be, yes, but my current income is enough or greater than my expenses. So these these are the things which fortify me, with which I am able to live my life. I have one more last episode on the basic investment philosophy. This was the second one. Thank you.